Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My presenting on validation process. For any developing country, as in Malaysia, developing the human capacity of the Malaysian citizens has always been an important agenda. Improving the quality of education has always been the central discussion, and this can be seen in the Malaysian Education Blueprint 2013-2025. The Ministry of Education Malaysia has proposed 11 shifts to pave the way of education planning in Malaysia. One of the shifts emphasized on transforming teaching into the provision of choice, with focus on entry requirement to the teaching profession, teacher professional development, teacher core functions, competency and performance-based career progression. These initiatives implicate the need to study the practices of the teacher education providers, the teacher education institutes for primary school teachers, and education faculties of higher institutions for secondary school, which are the main agencies for providing teachers in Malaysia. The objective of the paper is to examine the feedback given by the various stakeholders and agencies on the 3Es teacher education curriculum proposed for the development of teacher education model in Malaysia, and also to discuss the suggestions and actions taken based on the review given by stakeholders and agencies. And the scope of this study is within a teacher education university, in which the primary focus is for educating pre-service secondary school teachers in Malaysia. The 3Es teacher education curriculum. The 3Es teacher education curriculum, which serve as the focus of the study, is titled The 3Es: Engages, Empowers and Emancipates Teacher Education Program. This is actually a 5-year research project funded by the Ministry of Education in Malaysia. So a series of document analysis on best practices was conducted as a comparative analysis between countries prior to the development of the curriculum framework. The episteme of the framework is based on documents such as the Malaysian Education Philosophy, the Malaysian Education Blueprint, Malaysian Qualifications Agency, Education Program Standards, as well as the Malaysian Teacher Education Philosophy. The assumptions which formulate the framework are perceived through the 5 Minds of the Future by Gardner 2008, Scholarship of Teaching and Learning by Morrison 2012, Holistic and Balanced Graduates ICGPA Informed by Mohi, and of course the 21st Century Skills. This understanding were further used to formulate the 8 provisional guiding principles with emphasis on the values, skills and knowledge that are transpired through the curriculum, teaching and learning, and assessment practices, as well as leadership and clinical experience. The forms of the curriculum paradigm are situated within the social constructivism theory, and the knowledge which inform the framework is the practical as well as the critical knowledge. To materialize the 3Es teacher education program, there are 4 types of change which underpin the curriculum structure. First is a change in the facilitation of learning, a change on how knowledge is acquired, a change in paying, and a change in recognition. The curriculum is implemented through the high-impact practices purposeful pathways, which include the first-year experience, discipline core, interdisciplinary courses, learning community, experiential learning, undergraduate research, community service of learning, global learning, and capstone project. And the output of the 3Es curriculum is to produce the beginning scholar teachers who possess good values, skills, as well as knowledge. The methodology A qualitative approach is employed to analyze the feedback given by the stakeholders and agencies. 4 meetings were organized periodically, 2 in 2017 and further 2 in 2018. Altogether make it 4. All these validation meetings involve presentations of the latest development from the respective lead researchers, curriculum, teaching, learning, assessment, leadership and clinical experiences of the project before obtaining feedback from the involved participants. The invited stakeholders, experts in education and agencies play the role of a critical collaborative informant in reviewing and providing views based on 3 criteria of the proposed curriculum: the strengths, the weaknesses, as well as further suggestions. So, after the presentation by the group leaders, there will be a roundtable discussion as well as the Q&A from all the reviewers. And all these responses and discussions were actually audio recorded. And the audio recorded data were analyzed into categories and themes by looking at what were the strengths, weaknesses, and the kinds of actions taken in order to improve the curriculum further. Findings of the first validation. Among the findings were, in the first validation, stakeholders were very concerned on how transformation knowledge can be taken place in classroom instructions. So there were suggestions on the use of experiential and discovery learning with the integration use of the technology. There is also the need for teacher education program to prepare human capitals, which is aligned to the need of industry, in line with the Education 4.0. One of the weaknesses highlighted is the lack of focus in developing social capital, which combines the cognitive, relational, structural, as well as communication and personal skills. Many of the informants actually express their concerns on the values that teachers hold, as this will be replicated by their students. So they have suggested that values need to be forefronted and need to be inculcated among the student teachers while they were doing their training. And there were also suggestions that the need to include passionate teachers as one of the criteria for the development of quality teachers. Based on the feedback given, 4 types of change are proposed: change in the facilitation of learning, change in the way knowledge is acquired, change in recognition, and change in being. The model was refined and titled the 3 E's Teacher Education Curriculum, which engages, empowers, and emancipates after the first validation was carried out. The second validation, which was conducted in November 2017, involved a group of education experts from various institutions of higher learning, teachers training institutes, and officers from the Curriculum Development Center, Ministry of Education, and the Malaysian Examination Council. Positive feedback were gathered, particularly on the proposed model. The focus on values, skills, and knowledge was perceived as commendable. The 3 E's curriculum were said to be doable and can be implemented. The 3 C's, conduct, collegiality, and contribution, which was one of the 4 types of changes, were seen as important aspects that were incorporated in the framework. One of the weaknesses highlighted was the proposed model of best practices did not include the Eastern and Islamic perspectives, because the review was made on countries, on teacher education, on renowned teacher education programs, and the best practices. So, after the review, the inclusion of Morabi, a critical Islamic pedagogue from the Islamic perspectives, was included, and reference is also made to the education in Japan, particularly on developing values as well as the development of Society 5. The third validation session was carried out in January 2018 with education experts from institutions of higher learning agencies such as the Education Performance and Delivery Unit, PADU, Psychometric Malaysia, Malaysian Association of Creativity and Innovation, MACRI, and representatives from Parents Teachers Associations of several secondary schools. The strength highlighted from the session were the comprehensiveness of the teacher education framework and its focus on change of many aspects. The concept of Murabi was integrated and well received from the stakeholders. The concepts proposed are current, including the Fourth Industrial Revolution as well as the 21st Century Learning Strategies. And however, there was concern raised on the implementation of the curriculum. It was said that the curriculum might be ideal and yet to be implemented to ensure its validity. So there is also a need to ensure that the proposed curriculum framework is generic and applicable in all disciplines. One of the things that was highlighted also that the curriculum should be able to forecast the challenges that future teachers are going to face, particularly in multiple contexts with diverse students' capabilities. And there is also the need to include current types of pedagogy, particularly on connectivism, heutagogy, facilitation of learning, which includes mentoring as well as coaching. Based on the reviews that were gathered, further reviews were carried out by the researchers. The aspect of 4 types of changes were refined, and infographic on the curriculum framework was designed, as well as the beginning scholar teachers' attributes were refined and developed into 3C1A, which encompasses the compassionate, collaborative, creative and innovative and adaptive attributes. Each of the attributes consists of sub-attributes which explain at length the attributes. The fourth validation was carried out in September 2018 with 5 other education experts from institutions of higher learning and teacher education institutes. The feedback that was gathered was that the overall 3Es curriculum framework was commended for its comprehensiveness, holistic and balanced, and addressing the needs of current teacher education program. However, aspects of spiritualism needs to be seen more explicit, and also there is a need to include teachers who are resilient to changes, particularly on unplanned change, to accommodate the dynamic revolution of education in the future. There's also emphasis on inculcating the value, skill and knowledge of the curriculum model. Future teachers should be trained to be champions of change instead of being change in managers in education. Other concerns were highlighted, for instance, that the curriculum model should be cognizant of the Malaysian education system, in which certain teachers should be physically and psychologically prepared to teach either in rural or urban schools upon graduation. As a conclusion, the validation process was seen as constructive by all researchers in order to strengthen the curriculum framework before its implementation. Many of the concerns expressed by the critical informants were valid and helped to clarify some of the concepts explicitly. Humanizing education is seen as integral for social change and should be one of the practices permitted in the teacher education program reform. This paper implicates the need for teacher education program reform to embark on the proposed curriculum validation and to involve as many critical informants in the attempt to produce a quality curriculum.